So it's been with high anticipation at what the director kind of rate with Radio Silence.
Yeah.
It's a duo, but also Matt. He used to be the punk rocker. I can't ever get his name right.
Well, Matt Open and Tyler Gillett are
Yeah.
part of that together. Then, yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of appetizing. What would they do after Ready or Not and the screams, and then we get our answer. It's Abigail.
Yeah. So if The Mummy 2017 gave us anything, it's that they're at least willing to experiment.
Yes. This is definitely an experiment. So let's get to it. Let's talk about Abigail.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, the dancing ballerina himself, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick for the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for finding us. And for our loyal fans, thank you for supporting the show. Quick shout out. If you want to catch me in person, I will be tabling at SpringCon in Minnesota. Check out Minnesota Comic Book Association.org. We'll put the link down below. Tickets early. There is a rebate. You also get a discount if you bring a non-perishable food item at the door. It's happening May 18th, so come see me. I'll be selling my comic books, artworks, and of course, if you come, I'd love to talk movies with you. Also to mention, both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out the webpage for critics reviews as well as ours. Hey, Kyle, do we have a Patreon?
I think we still have one, yes.
Yeah, of course we have a Patreon. We have some great deals, great content, and in future episodes, look for us to do some kind of editorials, not to mention just picks as well. And you get your De Palma journey that we're doing on Patreon exclusive. So get that. And an opportunity to tell us what movies we could review in the future with a shout out to you, of course. So let's get what's going on with Abigail.
There's a lot going on with Abigail.
Yeah,
when a group of kidnappers retrieve the daughter of a rich and powerful man, they soon learn her identity and her secret. She's a vampire, a ballerina vampire. Now they have to survive a trap that's been laid out for them and a very hungry little dancer.
Okay, I just realized, just kind of going back and researching, that we do have somebody that passed away after post-production.
Oh, yeah, Angus Cloud, yeah.
Angus MacLeod, the one, the driver, the passenger in this movie, passed away the summer last year after where they're making this production movie. All right, first instincts, and I just have to run again, Paul. I see a lot of, everybody's going to compare Ready or Not. There's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Very easy to do. It's another movie they did. But I see a very similar taste of The Usual Suspects in it. I don't know if you catch that as well.
I couldn't not see the Ready or Notness of it all,
Yeah.
especially with some of the, I guess, the way in which vampires are dispatched in the film, or characters are dispatched in the film. There's a very significant
Very
reference
lustful,
to Ready
right?
or Not.
Ready,
yeah.
I do. I mean, I champion. I came this close for Ready or Not being on my top 10. I think it was on your top 10.
Oh yeah. And more than Usual Suspects, I kept seeing Reservoir Dogs because of the code names and because of the. I felt that the characters had a larger than life persona. You also get that very iconic, the very, I guess, informative scene where Melissa Barrera's character goes through and basically pinpoints what each of their weaknesses is and setup.
I would say the trailer doesn't really match the tone of the movie. The trailer is kind of very campy, very hokey, almost very superficial. But this has content to it. I don't think the trailer ever really matched what we have for a movie.
Well, the hard thing with the trailer, and especially, I think it's an unfortunate thing that you have to market this movie because you can tell while watching the movie that the big reveal of the vampireness is not exactly part of the opening of the film. It is something that comes with time. But there's no way you can market this movie without saying that. Like, how would you sell this movie without revealing she's a vampire? It's impossible. It's kind of like when the Pet Sematary remake had to reveal that someone else was dying, and they had to do it in the trailer, and it's like, because it's part of the main narrative, it's almost impossible to get past.
Yeah, and in a couple of minutes in the movie, you don't get a lot of Abigail to begin with. I do like that they've kind of woven around the little, let's talk about characters through dialogue without just revealing it, or they don't do like the 8:30 tonight, any kind of the scroll. You just get a film of this tension, right, of this kidnapping.
Yeah, the only time where I really felt like the characters were being like forcefully placed into descriptive mode was that aforementioned scene where they kind of are joking about, can you tell me my thing?
Yeah.
And it works well enough in the film because, again, what I think makes this film fantastic is a rarity for this kind of movie, which is more so than the vampire. I think that the fodder are way more interesting than I expected them to be. All the people that are in there kidnapping are way more interesting, have better chemistry than you would expect from a film like this. Usually you think the vampire is going to be the one with the most personality.
Right. I think Abigail is kind of wooden character.
I think she's written wood, and I think Alicia Weir does a pretty damn good job as the titular character. But the writing, I agree with you.
Now, before you the comments about Abigail's character is all cheap and stupid and everything. It necessarily doesn't reveal enough. You have to kind of have a little crumpets of little information as you go. Mm-hmm. I do like the gimmick of her being, they kind of trap her.
Yeah.
And this movie, I know there's another one, I think M. Night Shyamalan's coming out with a movie called Trapped or something. And this kind of feels like this enclosure. But the gimmick is played very well. If you notice, there's also a little play of D'Argento's Phenomenon in this movie. Did you remember that with the swimming pool and the bodies? And,
okay, yeah.
Yes,
I kept thinking
much.
Poltergeist with that one. So
you thought Poltergeist?
Yeah, the amount of references to other films.
Phenomenon with all the mixture of of course, it's an empty swimming pool.
I was impressed with the number of like random references that did feel almost twofold. I mean, there's even the part where when the house kind of locks itself down. I kept thinking the 13 Ghosts remake, where the house was a machine kind of a thing.
Sorry to interrupt you, but didn't they do that with the Hellraiser?
I guess it was with the Hellraiser film as well. Yeah. See, that's another 2 movies doing the same thing that we're referencing in this movie.
So, Abigail doesn't feel necessarily like a horror movie until you're about an hour in the movie. It feels very much like a Usual Suspects, like a Tarantino from the 90s, kind of like a crime, and then you don't trust the person. The reveal, can't tell you real names. You do have a hierarchy tension to this. I'm just saying, you kind of feel you've seen these movies so much before, but it's fun. You know the hierarchy is going to come.
Yeah, and
Who's
I think
going to get first and everything.
I think there was some surprises in the order of things because the film does devolve, and not in a bad way, but it devolves into kind of a slasher, and then there were none Agatha Christie style. They're getting picked off one by one. Yeah. It is like the reverse Ready or Not, where instead of there being one good person and a bunch of bad people, we have one bad person, a bunch of, I guess, also bad people. The thing about it that bothered me was actually when it finally got to the finale. I felt like the finale was a lot of like character betrayal. This happens, this guy's, we're throwing people into walls. Like, really, I feel like this is a movie where the journey itself is fantastic. I was a bit let down by the ending, but I think the journey itself was the most fun part.
The journey, I would say a lot of people, and I think people will agree with your kind of camp, that part of your grouping, that at the end, it just gets bombastic with...
and there's so many scenes where a character picks up another character and throws them into a wall, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing this so much, but... The thing about it is this is a perfect example of the journey is more important than the destination, because I think the journey and everything happening through acts 1, 2, and even the beginning of 3 is solid enough that even though I was kind of let down by the ending, I had a lot of fun with the movie.
Yeah, and of course, the Matthew Good let you down at the end.
You know what's crazy is I don't know if anybody else watching this is a fan of Downton Abbey, but it is interesting that Dan Stevens' character was replaced by Matthew Good's character in that TV series, and then they both appear in this film in kind of replacement style.
It'd be interesting to go back and talk about this a little bit in the future, 10 years from now, because initially this was signed on as called Dracula's Daughter. They were trying to do something like Hammer Films.
Well, the original Dracula's Daughter was the original sequel to Dracula 1931's Dracula, the Bela Lugosi one, and that was when I had heard that they were going to do kind of a remake of that, and that's how the film had kind of started. I thought, okay, well, that's interesting because that film has a lot of like gender identity questions and like sexual orientation questions. It's such a very old film because Dracula's Daughter is seen as a lesbian in the film made in the 30s by a lot of common critiques. And so I was like, okay, that's odd. But then when it started going down the road of becoming this movie about this dancing ballerina vampire, it's virtually nothing like that film anymore. No. But I do think what I like about it is, again, there is a respect for what came before. I like that the music she's dancing to is Swan Lake,
of course,
which is, of course, the song that's used in the 30s Dracula. I like that there are references to what came before without being beaten over the head with it.
No, there's definitely a lot of familiarity in this movie. Of course, you're trapped into an old, dilapidated mansion. You have the crusty person house, and you almost have House on Haunted Hill. If you could just stay in this house for 20 hours, 24 hours, you win the prize. So there's a lot of different familiarities, but staying fresh and original. There's a lot of things of the protocols of doing a vampire story like that. It gets thrown away. What happens if I get bit? What happens at that? Don't they have powers and all that stuff? And it plays on those rules in its own little way. Yeah.
And this is proof too that you can dance around familiarity and things we've seen before and still make it entertaining.
Yeah.
Again, having these characters, a lot of these characters kind of fit almost like trope kind of character forms. But again, the performance, the chemistry that they have, and the way that the writing gives them each a time to shine amidst it does overcome that. And I think, we referenced a lot of movies that this thing seems to take from, and yet it didn't feel like it was stealing from it, or that it was just member berries, you know?
I do like the chemistry of Megan from Scream and the one with us from the Marines. It's almost like they should have their own.
Oh, Dan Stevens and her? Yeah.
Dan Stevens. Little too overhead with Kevin Durant's character being an idiot. I get it. You don't have to tell me every 10 minutes, you know.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm just part of the camp of like, I raise my hands up for Kevin Durant, and I just want him to get the world because I think he's one of the best character actors that never gets time to shine. And it's nice to see him get that, even though, yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's low-hanging fruit that always gets plucked. But
Absolutely.
I get it, but yeah.
And he's a little similar to Angus Cloud's character as well, in that they're both kind of like
they don't tell us how
slimies.
They don't tell us how that Sharpie drawing goes away eventually. Just all of a sudden,
yeah, I noticed it was gone. I was like, oh, I wish that had been there the whole damn movie.
I know, that's exactly what I said.
I wish
it
that
should be there throughout the whole movie.
And then maybe like, you know, I was really hoping that there'd be a moment where like she like stabs him in the face and he's like, oh, she stabbed me in the, you know, and he like embraces the joke.
I was
expecting
the same
that the
kind
whole
of writing
time.
camp. I had that same feeling in the
If there's not a damn deleted scene or a release the marker cut.
Right. Kind of look forward. I think somebody would like to have some kind of a sequel to this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I really
Of course, I said that
appreciate-
already or not, and they haven't made a sequel to that.
Now we're hearing about that. No, now they're working on a second one. So the thing about it with me is I appreciate these random and really ambitious takes on the Universal monsters. You know, I wasn't big on Renfield last year, but I respect the fact that they tried to do something unique with it. I did really like The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I've liked a lot of these.
I did until the end of that, especially with that one. I did like it all the way up to the end. It was like, oh, we have to do this.
Yeah,
exactly. Silence of the Lambs kind of ending to this.
But I appreciate that they are trying unique things and not just, you know, as much as I was a huge forerunner of, I really wanted that dark universe to actually work. I appreciate as well the ambitious takes that Universal is doing, and I'm happy that this film gets a chance. I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel more than anything. I just want to see more Universal monsters.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think if you're a horror fan, you appreciate this much, much more. So, what do you think of our thoughts on Abigail?
Yeah. Are you dancing to the theater to check it
out?
out?
I'm going to give this a really good... I'm not going to say this is great. I'm going to give this like... It doesn't just punch me like Ready or Not. I'm going to give it a really good solid film. I'll go back and watch it again.
Yeah, it's a recommendation for me. I like the movie quite a bit. Like I said, the ending was not what I was hoping for, but I think everything up to it is just so damn good that it doesn't bother me that the ending isn't as strong as the rest of it. But
I
it
do
does
like
make
when
me
a vampire bites and you're like, oh, you got to stop drinking, man. Oh.
Well, I appreciate that the teeth are really disgusting, too. I like that we're getting back to disgusting vampires.
If I had a bumper sticker, get back to vampires having really awful teeth like 30 Days of Night.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, vampires, don't go to your dentist. Enjoy being who you are. And thank you for joining us for this episode of Kyle and Nick on Film. Once again, you can find all of my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
And that's true. Vampires can only get drunk if they suck off a drunkard's blood. I mean, they can't really drink alcohol. It's not gonna. Yeah, that's the only way they can get intoxicated. Is that part of the protocol?
There's only one way to find out, really.
Yeah, they're gonna have to just go after bums. All right, and you can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts. And then once again, check me out at SpringCon 2024.